So one thing I didn't say, just wanted to thank you guys for your support of the department, and that's how we're able to do all the good stuff we do. So thank you.
You're ready.
I think we've got a discount on those.
What's that?
You think we'd have got a big discount on those?
I know.
We should have probably had somebody include them in the plan proposals.
Hey Jake, can you put the camera on? There you go.
Oh, I didn't press the got it button yet.
Oh.
It turns it back off. Whenever you're ready.
All right. First item on our consent agenda is a request to set a public hearing for the vacation of a portion of JC Hope Road, and that's in
Trout Lake.
Yeah, Trout Lake area. I don't know if you got the map that shows the portion of it. There's a undeveloped piece of right-of-way that we have been requested to vacate. So the yellow we keep and the pink goes away. So that's the proposal. This is requested by the adjacent residents. We have three
Sorry, I had to catch up to your map. I didn't scroll fast enough.
Okay.
All right, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, so this just sets the public hearing, and then we'll have testimony for and against it, whatever occurs. We have three pay estimates. First one is to Lee Contractors, who's doing the courthouse entrances for $115,765.61. We have a pay estimate for all seasons heating, and this is for an AC unit for the jail control equipment room that didn't have one before. Pay estimate number one to all seasons was for, the next one is for the Klickitat radio site HVAC system. And it's mostly to provide cooling in the equipment rooms. Construction side, annual striping contract phase one is complete, and they're doing stop bars and crosswalks on the west side around the DeWalt and Loop Road area. Old Mountain Road, our contractor's still building subgrade and installing culverts, and they're working early. They're starting at 4 a.m. So just to try and beat the heat and keep working. Roosevelt drainage repair. Got a couple of pictures. You can see the first picture shows the new installation, the silver colored pipe, and then you can see the old one, which is just a short piece of black plastic. It might have had another longer piece connected to it, but the wind really works everything out there. And so most of those pieces have disappeared. They've broken
And
loose.
this is permanent, essentially to keep the water from eroding that hillside.
Yeah. The support for the road. In a few spots, there's some pretty good ravines that have started. So these will go along with the paving project that we'll be doing later in the year, and they'll connect up to that.
How do you get the water to go from the street into the inlet?
We'll have kind of a rolled edge with the asphalt,
Okay.
and it'll direct it to that inlet. There's a couple photos. There's quite a few of them out there, and some of these big radius curves. So anyway, they finished that work, and they're just working on their punch list items. The Edgeline project, it's grant funded. They're going to start on July 12th with the work. They were going to start next week, but they actually had one of their pieces of equipment burn up So they have to source another piece to get started with. So this hot weather, things happen. Nothing new on the signs and guidepost project. The guardrail repair, the contractor has their materials and they want to start work tomorrow. So they had the materials in the yard. We got a great price for this work compared to the other bidders, and it was because they already had the material. They were just looking for a job to use it on. So that worked out good for us. Let's see, West Darland Road. Might as well talk about the, we're preparing the contract for it. So last November when we chip sealed it, which was, you don't really normally do that work then because it's the sure way to have the road bleed. So yesterday we ended up having to sand it because it was starting to bleed through. So
I was gonna ask if that was why it's got gravel on it, but
but that whole surface will come up when we actually pave it. So
you're not paving over the top, you're stripping that whole.
yeah, we'll get rid of that. Yep.
Why did we do that last November?
Because we thought we had a small area that we were going to repair, but it grew
Oh, okay.
and
So
grew.
you thought the whole project was actually gonna be completed last year and it grew into a bigger project than you expected, is kind of what you're saying.
Well, we had dollars to pave it, and they're federal dollars, and that's pretty much all you can do with it. And so we had the bridge that the rail needed to be upgraded, and then looking at it, we're like, well, we should fix this other area. And so that was what we were planning to do last year. But when we got into it, most of the road was pretty gooey below the surface.
Is that why you guys dug down so deep in there?
Yeah,
You went
yeah.
in deep.
Yeah, we put a section of gravel, a foot section of gravel in. So yeah. It will last for a long time now. And it'll keep our paving in good condition for a long time as well. On the design side, nothing new on Courtney Road. We didn't get that waiver for you this week, but in the next week or two, we'll have it to you. I don't think there's a big rush since we're not going anywhere with it until fall. Let's see, the striping project. SDP paving project. We're on ad again this week for Roosevelt, and then that'll go to construction after that. On the maintenance side, the guys on the central and east are hauling rock, graveling roads. This week in the hot heat, we're trying to keep people in equipment that has air conditioning. On the west side, they're actually doing some ditching on BZ Glenwood Highway. So they're ditching the grade because they're gonna chip seal that one this summer. So.
How many miles?
What's that?
How many miles of chip seal on this one?
I don't know how many, it's all the way basically from the bottom to the top of the hill.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, the county services building, they're actually setting up the crane to lift those two large generators onto the pads in the alley.
Past us just now.
Yeah, so that they have to go over the top of the building, so that should be
That could be interesting.
yeah. But the picks look like they're pretty close, so, and there to go the generators now. They're continuing to work on the civil work, the street, Court Street, and around the building. They have some retaining walls they're building on the east side. And then they'll start after the 4th, they'll close the whole road and reconstruct this side. So next week, I think we have lined up to remove the grindings. The contractor's bringing in a grinder. We'll take those and use those in other locations.
So during community days, the whole road's gonna be non-accessible.
Yeah, and the city doesn't plan on using any of our grounds. Yeah, they understand this year, it's just different. Let's see. They're just working inside all the trades, like I had noted the past couple of weeks, they're all working and there's a lot of work left to do inside. Still on schedule. And the parking, I was supposed to meet with the city yesterday and they called and canceled that. that meeting, so they're gonna reschedule it, which is okay. We have time to work through that issue with requesting to vacate that portion of Grant Street behind us. Courthouse entry, this hot weather, they're ready to pour, but we're not pouring. We're waiting until it cools off, so maybe next week when it's
Maybe you
90.
can get all of the concrete out of the truck before it hardens.
Yeah, and get it finished too. So, and we don't want it to crack.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be cracks, but we're gonna do our best not to have that. So they'll start with they have five pours scheduled. They'll start with the upper steps, then they'll pour the lower piece of the steps. Then they'll have this ramp over here that they'll pour, and then they have curb and sidewalk on the south side. So they'll be busy once we get some opportunity to pour. And I think on the building, they have some walls formed up on the east side that they'll pour eventually. And they have a little more shade there, but it's still too hot.
Oh, Gordy,
Yes.
I did finally get in touch with Blair Simpson, and he is booked, and the Kilmer booked until probably September for cutting those big log up, so,
Okay. We'll do something different.
sorry.
That's all right. Okay, so nothing new on the radio side. Fairgrounds, we're working on installing that new PA system at the fairgrounds. This was the Fair Board's project this year. Follow-up issues, we have the River Mile 1 on the Klickitat River. So there's county has property that basically connects to the state highway. And then there's a road that comes down across our property down to the landing, which is Forest Service property. And we got a complaint from a citizen about the condition of the road. I had somebody go out and check it. They said it's passable, but we're gonna next week take a grader down there and grade it out. So it should be better after next week.
Do we have anybody living down there?
Not yet this year, no.
Okay.
Yeah, but that has occurred. I think on our property, we put up some large rocks, so you can't drive an RV. We just have a small landing at the bottom.
Mhm.
And the Forest Service property is pretty large, and they typically, at some point in the summer, will have issues with people staying for a long time down there. Lund Hill Solar, so we got calls from a couple concerned citizens about the condition of Middle Road and Schrantz. Since we're getting close to harvest season, they've asked that we take care of that. And so we kind of have it set up. Our agreement with the developer is that we won't grade it or do any kind of maintenance more than what we normally do. And so we typically grade Middle 3 times a year. We've done it twice already. Our plan is usually to do it once in the fall. And so now it's on them, and they know that we've been working with them and to fix it. And their plan, because they have dust issues, they have to keep watering. And so they're going to put mag chloride down, which should bind everything up. It'll be a hard surface, and there won't be dust either. So that should take them through the fall, which is when they plan to be done.
The other issue that was brought up to me is, and I don't know that it's our issue, is the amount of semi-trucks that are getting bad directions in 2 in the morning and are having to be led to the right directions. And I don't know that if we have a conversation with the solar to provide better maps to their drivers, or if you've already done that, but that was another issue beyond the road, is they're tired of being annoyed at 2 in the morning by a semi truck in the driveway.
Yes, that is a problem, where people just missing Middle Road and continuing on east all the way up to Bickleton looking for the job site.
Yep. Might
So-
need a little more signage, and if we can reach out to the solar company to get some signage or maps or something.
Yeah. They're supposed to,
Only bring less.
they're supposed to supply each delivery person with a copy of the haul route.
Oh, so
But
this is.
but people rely on their GPS, and a lot of times sometimes it leads them astray because it'll give them the shortest route, which is across Schrantz Road. And you can't, I don't think you can drive a semi across one portion of it. We have a small
Right.
timber bridge,
Right.
and it's a 180-degree turn.
Weed districts.
Yeah, and so,
They said the solar company needs to do a better job of alleviating this issue than they are currently doing.
yeah, we've talked about it in the past, and I'll talk to them again.
Tell them to make me smile.
All right. Yeah, I think in the future, because there's we've got a submittal for, I think it's Bluebird, which is same company, same area. And I think what I'll have them do is there'll be a better signing plan for the haul route. Just we'll work through that in a more thorough way because it didn't work this time. So. Last thing on the list is West Darland Road. We talked about the bleeding, and we'll keep an eye on that because it could do it again through the week. And once it starts, it's a challenge, especially with all the hot
When is
weather.
that supposed to be? When do you forecast they're going to start working?
Probably be the end of July or August. So that's the end of my list.
Shorter and shorter. What was the panel picture? I'm just assuming we got them up and installed, and so you wanted to show them?
Yeah. So I thought it was a good picture of something that's completed on the rooftop of the building, and
To probably put a little skillet there next to the barbecue.
When I looked at it, I was like, man, that just looks like a render. It doesn't even look real.
I know. Yeah, it's real.
Is this just one section, or were we gonna have two of these sections, or
No, this is
this is it?
yeah, 10 kilowatt. Yeah, I mean you could there's room to do more up here, and I think we just got a grant proposal for you have to have 20 kilowatts the minimum, so you'd have to put 2 more rows, the same as this, or a different kind of panel to add to it, or another facility. The other facility that we've talked about, because these are one of those things that actually reduce our ongoing cost. I mean, it's a big initial cost, but if somebody's helping you pay for that, and I think it's 50% match, do you do something like this at the Pioneer Center, which has a large southern facing roof? So those are things to think about, but it bump something else, but long-term, it helps us with our annual expense for utilities, yeah. So. All right, you're welcome, thank you.
And do you grade at the park, do you grade all the way down into the Forest Service property as well, or do you just grade ours and let them deal with theirs?
We grade our road down to the bottom, we have to turn around, so, I think there's some overlap.
Yeah, where it goes around that corner.
Yeah, because we have to get back out of there, so, but not a lot.
Are you dropping one of those air conditioners off at my house there, Lord?
Yeah.
Yeah, that might actually cool my house. I waited a little too late to add another air conditioner to my house this year. You'll never get them in now. I have to put that on my list in October.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll find one now.
Yeah, no,
Everybody wants one.
well, and everybody's busy and everybody's broken and you're not getting anything now.
Yeah.
You ain't even getting a box fan now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're bringing good news today, right?
Oh, sure.
Mr. Dave, I did reach out to BoCC. I did not have any success
Okay.
trying to reword, so I have it on our schedule for next week that hopefully the three of us can sit down and smash it, and maybe they can come up with something that I can
Okay.
wiggle out.
First bit of news, it's hot.
Yep.
The good news is
That's it. All right, so maybe we'll start with that, the drought, the heat wave. As you may recall, we reported on the spring monitoring that Wendy did this year. Looking back to the last year, we have spring monitoring. The wells in their network are down, generally speaking, in the 3 to almost 8-foot range. So I'm not sure if anyone's, we've had a couple of people that we're aware of that are doing some deepening or, yeah.
Are considering it, yeah.
Yep, okay. So Wendy spoke with the city of Goldendale, and they are doing okay. They have both of their wells online as well as the spring system. Evidently, they're thinking that if it continues at this rate of moving water, that they may need to go to restrictions later, but not now. Dallasport Water District's running both of their wells. Their pumps are getting a bit warm. It's in cherry harvest, so they've got a pretty good load right now, but they're not foreseeing needing to go to water restrictions. Spoke with Russ at the PUD, and all of their systems are doing okay. They're keeping up. He thought, the one system they had a little bit of concern with was up in Ponderosa, but they bought a new pump online and everything's okay. City of White Salmon, Pat is out today. I got an email back, and he referred to someone on his staff. So I left a message there, so I've not got an update on the City of White Salmon. And they also serve Bingen some. So we seem to be holding fairly good with the public water systems, or the larger public water systems at this time. Reports are our dryland farmers and ranchers may not be doing as well. That if you don't have irrigated acreage, then you're selling calves. There's some, even NPR is reporting on one livestock grower at the east end of the county has had to sell cows because of inadequate forage. And we've not been out really looking and trying to know and see how we could help. But, state's not declared a disaster yet, a drought advisory. But even if they declare a drought, state help's not going to go to the dryland farmers or livestock growers. That's federal. So that's where we are on that.
Good news.
Pardon?
Remember, good news.
Good news is everything hasn't burnt up the hay that we do have on
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the field.
And the big community systems are okay. So, we haven't had in the past times when some of the smaller community systems have been threatened, like Wishroom, with fire flows and that sort of thing. So I'm glad to hear that they're all okay at this point and for the foreseeable future. Maybe Whitney, you want to talk to the lead entity where you wrapped up last week with the prioritization anyway.
Yeah, so for our salmon recovery funding grant round, we had our ranking meetings with our Citizens Review Committee last week. They recommended 4 projects for full funding. I have a list here if you guys want a copy and to see it. Can we make copies in here? Or anyway, so we'll get to that in a minute. But so 4 projects for full funding, including Lower Snyder Creek restoration, removing of fish passage barriers on Rattlesnake Gulch, developing a design for Pine Creek out in the eastern part of the county to allow fish passage. Yep, thank you. And looking into a conservation project for the White Salmon River corridor.
When was the last time that there was actually fish passage in Pine Creek?
It's been a long time since the John Day Dam was built.
Is there year-round flow to facilitate fish passage?
It's intermittent. So in the summertime reaches, some parts go dry, but their fish can hold in the pools that remain that are groundwater fed.
And they go up above where there are perennial pools. So it is used. I remember before we did the improvements to the flume there in Snyder Creek, that went up and you saw some audits in the little pools holding up there. So,
I would think those pools would end up being enough oxygen deprived that, interesting.
And then there is another project that the committee was still interested in, but it wasn't eligible for full funding just because we didn't have enough funding available. So I'm working with the State Conservation Office and the project sponsor to look at alternatives for that project for this year, either scaling the project or they have indicated that they're interested in partial funding this year and then to come back next year for additional funding to make up the difference.
all right, I think the other thing is, I think we finally got a grant amendment hammered out for Switzerland project. It's taken a year and a half to do that. But it's getting its final review and hopefully I'll have that to you next week or the week after to add 120,000 to that and extend the period of performance till June 2023. That sort of summarizes natural resources.
So with the funding for the Lower Snyder Creek, the goal was, the thought is to do that in conjunction with whatever we're gonna do on that property.
Right.
So we need to start moving on that so that we can start putting that piece together.
Okay.
I don't want them starting this project with that before we start our side.
Okay.
They won't have funding in hand until at least September, so we have a couple months, but
Yeah,
it'll start
but-
now.
But we gotta start now in order to
Yeah.
get ahead.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I think where we left it last was the assessor's office was looking into the status of the property, right? We'll check in.
Yeah. Or the treasurer.
Sorry, the treasurer. And part of their project description does include coordination with the board and about that property. So they certainly wouldn't be operating in isolation.
I just want the right horse leading the cart.
You bet.
That's going to be a challenge. Very fast cart.
Exciting.
All right, moving on to economic development. As you may have seen last week, Ecology denied without prejudice the 401 water quality certification for the Goldendale Energy Storage Project. The basis for that was insufficient data to form a decision. Little background there. The federal rules provide that states have a year to do the 401 water quality certification. And the Ecology, that was too tight a time frame, I think. It can't, according to federal rules, it can't be held up due to NEPA, SEPA. So they asked for quite a bit of detail in terms of information. It gives them a lot of time to turn around. They submitted it. I think there's some frustration on the developer's part, but is working on that. I think at this point, I talked to them last week. They intend to resubmit, and there was an invitation to resubmit their application in the denial letter. So, moving on, Klickitat Valley Health. We've been talking about recently with the hospital about doing a REDS process where we get federal agencies in and get some support on how to fund projects that are economic development projects. That would be primarily KVH's heating system, which they're looking at, going hydrogen and solar and linking them with the school system. So Commissioner Christopher and I will be meeting Thursday to get some more information, making sure the city's on board, because that could potentially expand to include other sorts of projects in and around Goldendale. So be focused on the Cloverdale area. KCPEA, we're looking at meeting the last Tuesday of this month. Hopefully, we'll have our new Associate Development Organization grant ready to be approved by the EDA and get authorization to contract with the county to implement that. As I mentioned before, we're expecting the funding amount to go up from $50,000 a year to $75,000. So that'll help. Also hope to have at that meeting, get the buildable lands inventory submitted and presented to the board, and have KBH meet with the board about their project progress they made, because some of this work done to date was done with 0.09 funding. But see that work product and then look at next steps. And I believe they're going to submit an application for consideration for some more 0.09 funding. I got a draft yesterday, haven't had a chance to look at it at the end of the day. The Small Business Development Center, we've got a candidate was selected and accepted the job. Lorena Lowell, I think she's out of White Salmon, would be the new advisor. She starts on the 6th, has to do some training before she can start with the businesses, but we're looking forward to that.
That remind me, that's 2 days down there and 3 days up here.
Yes.
How was that?
Yep. The USDA, moving on, has that grant opportunity. You're aware of the $2 million that was identified as being for scenic areas located along the river or the coast. McKed has submitted an application for $2 million. The board submitted a letter in support of that. Last week, the Port of Klickitat asked for a letter of support. I drafted it and just realized that it's for the same grant. They're looking for $95,000 to help them open up a second well at the Port of Klickitat. I talked to the port director yesterday and indicated I may have flummoxed here, so I would touch base with the board. And if you take exception and feel that my letter of support for the ports project competes with yours and I should withdraw, that's what I'll do. But sorry about that. But
I think the port probably has a higher likelihood with the amount of available funds in getting it, because they were asking for a lot of money on the other side that we gave them letter of support to. I have no problem with the fact that you wrote a letter of support for it.
and Margie told me that the port wrote a letter of support for McKed's application as well. So no conflict?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
I think slower than he does. Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay. All right. Apologize for putting you in that position. The job fair, I had a job fair last week, covered Klickitat and Skamania County. 20 companies signed up, 35 job seekers expressed interest. Of those, 24 completed the online registration and only 18 showed up. So
20 companies, are these local companies or companies? I mean, it could be both.
11 of them are from Klickitat County.
Yeah, 18 people show up.
Yep.
Discouraging.
Yeah. And I know that both chambers were promoting this. I don't know, it helped get some businesses sign up, and I'm not sure how far they reached into the potential applicant pool, but
There was a little bit of advertising, but there always could be more, but there was enough.
I'm glad you found 18 people willing to show up.
yeah.
Well, it was mainly online too, wasn't it?
Yes, it was an online.
So it's not even like they had to show up. They just had to turn the machine on.
All they needed was a clean shirt and a camera.
Yeah, didn't even need pants, just wear a shirt and you're fine.
Yeah,
You lead a horse to water, but,
by the water, but that's the way it goes.
mm,
So that sort of summarized it. This is what I got.
Got any questions for Dave?
no, sir.
Were the committee, Citizens Review Committee, everybody happy? Did it rank out that way, or did they do any horse trading?
The only trading was on the bottom two projects. So the acquisition project by Columbia Land Trust ranked 4th initially, but it's a big financial ask. So even after funding the first 3, there still wasn't money to fund it as number 4. So the committee opted to move up the conservation assessment with the conservation district for full funding in 4th position, just to fund another project, rather than do all the partial funding straight to Columbia Land Trust.
And I would think 3 would be able to get us a little bit of political capital as well, so.
I'm going to circle back to the drought a little bit. Have you been hearing from ranchers or others that are
No.
being impacted and looking for some support there?
No, I mean, it's out there, but everybody's just doing their thing for now.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of any asks anyway.
Okay.
I just heard that it's bad.
No, I'm feeding hay early.
Yeah.
And ordering extra. Thanking God they have it.
Okay. All right.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
I just wish they didn't have it when it was 118 degrees.
Someone made a mistake on the weather map yesterday, and it was showing Moses Lake at 1135 or something.
Sounds accurate.
Feels like.
Yeah, right?
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Stay cool.
Thanks, sir. Good man.
I think it needs shortening everybody up.
Well, it's making everybody grumpy, that's for sure.
I had to apologize to you last night for being grumpy.
No, it's everybody's on edge. And,
I have an update for you.
Okay.
With the news that probably a double-digit increase in our insurance costs, reached out to Jonathan, and he was able to contact the pool, trying to find out, what do you mean double? I mean, what is it? And he came back with a 17%
Oh, wow.
increase. And based on last year's premium, that would increase, it'd be an additional $206,425. And I would like, with your direction, maybe to send out an email like to all the offices, the electeds and the department heads, to give everybody a heads up. Either this is going to require like a supplemental for everyone. Just plan ahead. I already briefed Jen, so she's aware that this may come. The bill is not due until December. But
Yeah,
again,
I would definitely reach out and so they can know.
I know I always base on at least 15%, but this was even higher than what I guesstimated.
Yeah, that was, I was sitting through that meeting. I was under the assumption we were dealing with around 13, but they never gave any numbers, so.
And it's not just us, it's not just the pool, it's across the nation. It's just the sign of the times, what's going on and everything.
Litigation has expenses.
We should be receiving our renewal application hopefully early August, because that's quite an extensive project to gather all the information and get that application completed and all the properties verified and And then the bill comes in December.
So our actual contract term is December.
Right. December through the next year.
Do you have any updates you'd like to mention now?
Mention now? No.
I don't have anything we need to.
Oh, I can mention one thing just because it's on my head. Jet boats on the Klickitat River.
Oh, yeah,
Did you hear about that one?
I heard about it.
Okay. So they're gonna be, I told them that's kind of out of our wheelhouse and kind of at a really bad time. Since I think that would take working with the Forest Service, our Fish and Wildlife, sorry, and the sheriff, and the board in a collaboration. And we don't all have the best, not
Was
the
it-
best time.
Did you hear who it was?
I got pictures of Oregon license plates.
So it was an individual, it wasn't a company or anything?
Well, no, one of the pictures was a company logo on the door. There was two vehicles, company logo on the door and Oregon license plates on both. I was always under the impression that the Klickitat was a no motors allowed, but I haven't looked that far into it. But apparently it isn't. Or sure can't find anything. I dug and dug and dug and dug and I can't find anything. So they're gonna dig and get what information they can dig and then make a presentation either to us or give me the information. And then we'll discuss whether we want to move forward with an ordinance making it non-motorized or horsepower limitations or whatever. We would have to decide what we're gonna do at that point, but
Look forward to seeing more information on it. I was surprised. I didn't think anybody would have the balls to take a jet boat up there.
I'd take mine up there in a heartbeat.
Oh, really?
25 foot long and 9.5 foot wide, no problem.
Really?
Give me 2 inches of water. I've replaced a lot of shoes on that jet boat. Yeah, I don't care if it's wet rock. If I can get up to 40 miles an hour, I can get across the wet rock on the other side. So, yeah. So the fact that it isn't done more often, especially by the smaller boats, that the video that was presented to me surprises me if it's open. I wouldn't do it because you're going to piss a bunch of people off.
Oh, yeah. Already have.
And the safety of it is not, because once you're going, you can't stop. They need to get out of your way.
Mhm.
Because you become the vessel restricted in your ability to maneuver. So by regulation, they have to avoid you. But yeah, you're going to make a lot of enemies. So even though it's legal, it may not be smart. And we might need to hold some public hearings to make sure we have the support of the people to remedy the situation.
Okay. I look forward to more information. Anything else?
For now, no.
All right, we are going to recess until 1 o'clock. Thank you all for tuning in to your regularly scheduled information exchange. 14 people.
It's only about 5 public, the rest are all staff.
Normal. Y'all can go back to work too.
To me,
Well, with that being stated, we are going to call the regular business meeting of the Klickitat County Commissioners to order. Let the record show that Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Christopher are in chambers and Commissioner Sauter is on his way back from Hawaii. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody would stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, have you had a chance to review the business agenda, sir?
I would make a motion to approve the business agenda.
I will step down and second the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Right?
Aye, motion carries. We are going to move into citizen comment from now until 1:30. You may have up to 7 minutes, and you can raise your hand to unmute yourself or press *6 on your phone. We have one person already, Gabrielle Gilbert. I don't see her now.
Oh, she's still there.
Gabrielle, are you there?
I think I had to unmute. I apologize.
There.
Excellent. Thank you for giving me the time to speak. I want to speak about the commissioner's letter back towards Sheriff Songer and in relationship to the proclamation and to the threat that was felt by county workers and especially to the health department. I think it's important that that tone of that letter needs to be addressed. I found that it appeared to me that there was a bit of Stockholm syndrome going on. It does not assist in a group of people that have felt threatened by what the sheriff's proclamation is, and the fact that he doubled down on it through a report in Goldendale on the 25th on his proclamation, that you guys have fawning adoration for him. The situation is that in the last period of time that the sheriff has been bringing in extreme far right groups and using extreme far right rhetoric and anti-government rhetoric is problematic. And the health department workers felt they felt unsafe and they felt threatened and they felt targeted. And that has to be addressed in the letter when you respond. The other thing too is when you use language where you compare people to animals, that language is derogatory and dehumanizing in its message that it conveys. And it conveys a person is subhuman. And I feel like that is problematic because basically the use of those words attempt to reflect and inform public opinion. The other thing too is it is not lost the irony that at a health department meeting, you had the prosecuting attorney outline what would happen to a citizen if they were threatening health workers because of that heightened interaction that was occurring between citizens and health workers. And here you have a person in power such as the sheriff and the department doing exactly that. And when we were explained by the prosecutors is we would be looking at fines and we would be looking at jail time. I feel that it is important for you as a commission to step up and defend the county workers so that they believe that what you're saying is in relation to them. Using the idea that social protest against police brutality is a stressor for the sheriff's department and a reason for this conduct is disingenuous to the populations who have been on the receiving end of unjust treatment by enforcement and law officers. And that has nothing to do with what's happening in our county. What's happening in our county is a sheriff who is diving deeper into anti-government far right rhetoric and bringing those populations in. And when you bring Chris Ann, I forgot her last name, the trainer that came in and that the sheriff's department said that they were going to be mandatory in going to this training, it's problematic because if we as taxpayers paid for that, I'm not gelling with paying for anti-government extremist training coming into my sheriff's department. And I feel like I want to know who paid for that training? Did we as citizens pay for that training? And how the commissioners are going to address. You literally are giving a red carpet for more of this to come into our county, and it's problematic. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. Next, somebody can raise their hand, or if you're on the phone, you can unmute yourself, *6. You guys seen anybody?
And Lynn,
Lynn?
Good morning. Thank you for your time. I just wanted to share with you a note that I got today saying that Klickitat County is in the top 2 worst COVID-19 transmission counties of Washington State. We are 37% vaccinated with a 14% transmission rate. The Delta variant is doubling every 2 weeks. These are not good statistics. We have a health department that is fearful of being arrested by the sheriff because of his proclamation and having to move staff around because of the fear factor that has presented. This is a huge problem. Our health department has already been through enough. They deserve better. They are not a whipping board for the sheriff's whims of which way he's going to be sailing that day. This needs to change. It's not a good look for our county, and it needs to definitely be addressed. I thank the health department for all they do. I got my vaccinations up in Goldendale at the fairgrounds. That was kind of an unusual way to get a vaccination, but very effective. And KBH, the health department, did a great job. The director, Erin, was there, and she's fabulous. I can't say enough good things about what they've done and the hard work they've done to help keep us all safe. We need to be talking about this more. This information needs to be discussed and talked about, not just swept under the rug. And someone sent a message to me. Last name is Mason, and I live in White Salmon. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
You as well. All right, next, you can unmute yourself via the *6 or raise your hand if you're on Zoom, and we will get to you. '32 participants and nobody's jumping.
I guess we've been behaving ourselves. That was a joke. See a lot of new names on there too.
Yeah. *6 if you're on the phone, or you can raise your hand if you're on Zoom. Since nobody's raising their hands, Casey, is there something you would like?
There is actually. I am in to request verbal authorization. Our current emergency management program coordinator submitted their letter of resignation at the end of July. And so we are requesting to advertise for that.
Well, that didn't take very long to fit.
It's a casual position, non-exempt, grade 38, 20 hours a week.
Say, this person's only been here for like a month or two, right?
A little more than that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back to public comment. Casey, do you want to make any public comment?
Casey, was there you don't feel free to not tell me what the reason, but did they give a reason? Was it a good reason? Is it going to help us find the next person? Is it
I am not aware of the
no
reason.
guidance at all?
Okay, *6 or raise your hand via Zoom, or if you don't know how to raise your hand via Zoom, just unmute yourself since nobody else is speaking. I guess the cat's got everybody's stuff.
Yes.
Jerry. Do you
Yeah.
have yourself?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Sherry from Houston. 120 Houston Street. I was just hoping to, with the 7 minutes to kind of get to the bottom or continue on how the conditional use permit works. Last week, we got to the part where there's a pre-submission conference with the planning, and then the developer who would like to apply for a conditional use permit would then submit their completed application to the planning department. So can you now tell me where and how this process works after the planning department receives the application for a conditional use permit?
Sherry, this is a time to make public comment, not the time for a discussion. If you would like, we can get you in touch with Mochi, who's in charge of the conditional use permits, and she can line you out with exactly how the process and the flow chart works.
Okay, so I have seen the flow chart that has been made up by planning. And the reason why I continue to ask the Board of County Commissioners is because we as the citizens have been asked to trust the conditional use process as it comes to citing large solar projects. Specifically, I guess, the Knight Road project, as Commissioner Anderson did in January, did a resolution to use the conditional use permit. And again, we've been asked to trust this process. And as a citizen, I am really trying to understand how to trust this process. We've been told that we have a voice in the decision on conditional use permits, that the citizens are listened to. So I'm trying to figure out at what stage of a conditional use permit application do the citizens have a voice? And that's simply what I'm trying to come down to, is when do the citizens get to weigh in on this process? And if it's not an answer you're willing to give me on a public comment, I understand, but I think there's a lot of citizens out here really trying to get a handle on what a conditional use permit really looks like through the county as they are going to be used in the Knight Road and as it's being used for under canvas. So again, I appreciate your time. I wish that you could answer this question since you have asked us to trust this process, Commissioner Anderson, and you have told us that we would have a voice. So again, my question is simple. After the conditional use application is turned into the county planning department, what is the next step for planning to do with that application? And when do the citizens get a voice in this conditional use permit?
Sherry, the citizens will get comment during the SEPA environmental impact. And then when it gets through planning, essentially it will be sent to the Board of Adjustments for their take, and they can weigh in more regulations or impose whatever they want from there. But while it's at the Board of Adjustments, there will also be a public hearing before the Board of Adjustments where you'll get citizen comment as well.
So after the applicant / developer turns in a conditional use permit to county planning, it's then forwarded to the Board of Adjustments, which then we would have a public hearing so citizens could weigh in. Am I correct?
Yes, but you missed the step before it goes to Board of Adjustments. You're going to go through SEPA, of which then you can address any environmental concerns you have through that SEPA process. And then the county official, SEPA official, will make changes or to that SEPA to mitigate for comments. And then you can even comment again before it goes to Board of Adjustments, where you'll get another comment.
Okay, so when we're at the SEPA decision, after the SEPA decision, then it goes to Board of Adjustments, and that's when we can also comment on SEPA, but we can also comment on the conditional use permit at a public hearing in front of the Board of Adjustments.
Right. So essentially, if you're just, for example, if your arguments are environmental related, you would argue that at SEPA. If your arguments are policy related or setbacks or something like that, you might argue that at Board of Adjustments because it's not necessarily environmental. It could be, but that's essentially your two avenues and where you go from there.
Okay, All right, well, I'm hoping that we can trust this process as conditional use permits are used in the county. And thank you for your time, Commissioner Christensen. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, you can unmute yourself by pressing *6 on the phone, or you can raise your hand if you're on via Zoom. Not seeing anybody.
I have a different topic question. This is Sherry. Is there anything you can tell the citizens as we enter into the 4th of July, if there's any sort of burn bans or firework restrictions? And if you don't know, can you lead us to an area where we can read some rules for any of that sort of fireworks and burn bans in our area?
There is a burn ban over the entire county, and we have a fireworks ordinance in county code. It's fairly limited. And during board pending, we will talk about fireworks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, and can you point us to where I can find that fireworks ordinance?
If you go on Google and you type in Klickitat County Code, it'll take you to the Mooney Code, and then just type in as the search box firework, and it'll take you right to it.
I think it's under health and safety. I want to say chapter 8, maybe.
Chapter 8 or
Oh,
so.
wow, that's some knowledge right
I looked it up today.
there.
Thank you.
You could have not said that part and go, yeah, I just knew that. The only one that I know of that currently has a firework, a no firework policy for the 4th is White Salmon.
I believe Benton has a permanent
A
ban.
permanent ban. Didn't know that one either.
Is that in the ordinance?
Not our ordinance.
No, our county ordinance is only unincorporated areas of the county. We don't regulate inside city or.
Okay, so I should probably be able to find their rules on their website for white salmon.
More than likely, you might have to call them. Same with Goldendale. I don't know if their website's sophisticated enough to have all that information.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to make public comment? All right, well, we will sit here and get some work done until somebody decides they want to give us some comments. all those that have joined, we are in public comment. If you would like to give public comment, *6 on your phone. Or if you're on Zoom, you might as well just go ahead and say your name, your location, and give us your comment.
Jake, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Is Elaine on this committee?
Elaine Harvey?
Yeah, who is the tribal representative on this committee?
On the Citizens Review Committee, there's a new gentleman that just joined.
I can look it up in our videos.
And I cannot recall his name.
I'll look it up.
Elaine has her hand raised.
Elaine.
Stirred it up.
Good job.
Hello? No, this is just a different topic. Elaine Harvey Goldendale. I'm still have a big concern about exempt wells in the county and the amount of short plats that's coming through continuously every month and that are getting approved. And I'm pretty certain that a lot of these are going to be small residential little farms, homes, whatever, with exempt wells. And on the east end of this county, that's I know, because I know a lot of farmers, ranchers in the eastern part of the county, their wells are drying out. And it's becoming more common. And so that's one concern I have for the future of the county and water resources, which also affects fish resources in the watersheds. And also I had a question about, I heard about reservoirs up in the Simcoes and not sure where to get that information of where's these potential reservoirs going to be in the Simcoes and what's the purpose? Is it for ag? Is it for water storage? Is it for recreational purposes?
I can answer a little bit. We're currently doing, we've got a grant for water measurements on Dry Creek and Butler Creek to find out what the flows are in those creeks during the year to determine if any storage would be possible. And if we used Office of Columbia River to build said storage, a third of the water would remain in the stream for fish and a third would go for potential agricultural uses.
So that's kind of on the upcoming years.
Yeah,
So it's kind of in the the study
we're in the
period
beginning
right
of
now.
the study stages. Right now, we're only looking at how much water there is.
What about the Switzler Canyon? I mean, isn't Klickitat County involved in the Switzler Canyon Reservoir?
Yes, we are involved. It is not in Klickitat County. It is in Benton County. Switzler Canyon is.
Okay. Yeah, just a question mark I had was why is Klickitat County involved in a project in Benton County?
The rationale behind that is a lot of the benefit would probably be seen in Klickitat County. We would be eligible for the water that is stored and the water rights that can be created.
Okay. Yeah, those are just some issues I'm concerned about with water resources in the county, especially with wells drying out and creeks drying out, like Rock Creek getting less in-stream flow and pools getting shallower and less abundant. Okay, Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Elaine.
0088 is unmuted.
We have 2610088. Would you like to give public comment?
Yeah, I would just like to know the figures that you're throwing out about the jobs and the taxes that are going to be produced from solar industrial sites. I would like to know where you got those figures.
I don't believe the county commissioners have put out any figures and jobs.
Yeah,
I'm not basically figures, but generalized millions of dollars, and also many jobs that will be created. That was your words. So where did you get those figures from?
Whose words were those?
That was the chairman of the county commissioner board.
Well, he's not here today, so I can't speak for him. All I'm aware of is being told that from the solar companies that it would create hundreds of jobs. Now, when I asked the union, we have like 14 union members in our county. So there is definitely question on how many in-county jobs those are. So I don't know that I've ever heard the chairman say hundreds of jobs. So.
No,
Sir,
he didn't say. I didn't say hundreds of jobs. I said many jobs, and he said millions of dollars in taxes. So I just wondered, where could you check that out to find out what he was talking about? I mean, the people at C seem to have all the facts, and the county commissioners seem to have nothing but a bunch of generalized guesswork.
Well, I would personally beg to differ with that. I think most of the information being sent out by the CEAS group is incorrect. We just don't publish.
Hold it right there. Hold it right there. When you say misinformation by the CEAS group, because I've checked out most everything that they've put out, and it's pretty factual, and you can go through, pages and pages of what they're talking about, and they're right on what they're saying.
Sir, could you please identify yourself and your community?
What's that?
Could you please state your name and your community where you live?
This is Delmer Eldred, Old Mountain Road, Goldendale, Washington.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Well, I will just say that I hear the comments given by CEAS on the radio, and every day I start dialing in the number to the radio to correct the comments made, and end up just not pushing send because it's not going to go anywhere.
Well, the fact that I mean, in all reality, I mean, the appearance is that the county commissioners work for Avangrid and the developers of solar energy and not for the community. And I just wonder, you guys state all this stuff as a generalization, but you don't state where you get your facts, where the other side does.
Well, it depends on what is a fact. We only state facts because we make sure we know the fact before we state it. We can
you just take the word.
On what the taxes will be, but nobody knows what the taxes will be until the project is completed and we actually have a bill.
Exactly. So where do you come up with this millions and millions of dollars? I mean, there's been places where solar has not paid the taxes, and who pays the taxes then? Do you know who pays the taxes when solar don't pay them? The property owner has to come up with the tax on personal property. That's where the money comes from. If they don't pay it, the people that they lease from has to pay a personal property tax on it. You guys should do a little homework on what you're doing and not take the word of the developers. I mean, if you were going to take a prescription, would you take the word of the drug salesman or the doctor?
I haven't talked to a developer, so I'm obviously not taking any words from a developer.
Well, that's really hard for me to believe because it sounds like they are giving you your talking points to me.
I'm sorry, sir, but nobody has given me talking points. I come up with my own talking points. But thank you.
Sure. Yeah, okay.
It is now 1:30. We have one more person on the line, 3376. Whoever you may be, did you want to make a public comment, and would you like us to create some room at the end of the agenda for your comment?
I'll say something really very, very quick. I appreciate the last caller's reasoning and what he said. My main reason for calling is, do either of you have neighbors who shoot off fireworks that leave thousands of pieces of firework waste that flies through the air onto your property, and you got to go pick it up over the next year? I still have stuff out here in front of my place.
Sir, can we get your name and location for the
Oh,
record?
I'm sorry. My name is Ken McCune, 519 East Broadway Street, Goldendale.
We regulate.
It's a dirty. I'm getting to hate this time of year because of the fire danger and this huge waste of money for these fireworks that create this kind of waste that, I mean, I found bottle rockets on my roof last year in piles of leaves that were laying up there. So I'm wondering, can you guys make a county-wide ban on fireworks?
We only operate outside the jurisdictions of the city. Anything pertaining to the city would need to be a city ordinance.
Good point, Dan. I appreciate that. I think you're very right about that. They're culpable for this. They give a permit every year to a local group that they must make thousands. They let them do it every year. But let's just hope that nothing major happens this year. We get through it, no problem. But I myself, I'm going to have to take some measures to prevent. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to stop it, but I'm not going to condone it, that's for sure.
Ken, we will be discussing fireworks during board pending today. So if you care to remain on the line throughout the rest of the meeting, you'll hear what we have to say.
Great. Thank you for the invitation. You guys have a great day.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Bye.
That being as the time is 1:32, we are going to close citizen comment for the week. If you had a wish to speak, we will be back here next week at 1 o'clock as well. We're going to move into our 1:30 public hearings, public meetings, bid openings for a public meeting to consider the approval of a boundary line adjustment BLA 2021-02. And I'm not going to state the parcel numbers. I'm going to let you do it.
Okay, BLA 2021-02 is a proposal to adjust the common property lines between lots 1 through 16 of a previous subdivision called Goldendale Heights Fruit Farms number 1. The proposed boundary is right off of Rimrock. The BLA is in section 11 in Goldendale vicinity. The administrative review of this boundary line adjustment has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the board, the road, health and planning departments, and treasurer's office. All conditions attached to preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds it's in the public's interest to approve this boundary line adjustment, a motion will be needed to grant final approval of BLA 2021-02 applicant Jan Wilson. Now the parcel numbers range from 0416 1151 000100 to 0416 1151 001600.
Dan, did you take a look at it? Yep. Do you have any thoughts?
Familiar with the area? No, I don't see any issues.
Would you like to make a motion?
If you're closing the public hearing, ready for a motion?
It's a public meeting.
Or a public meeting.
Yeah.
If you're ready for a motion.
Yep, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept boundary line adjustment BLA 2021-02. The parcel numbers that were presented within the Goldendale vicinity, applicant Jan Wilson.
I will step down and second the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Are they done with this property now? Do you know?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to. She's got a representative from the surveying company, so I haven't spoken to them personally. It is general rural, so they have potential to, you know,
Split one.
split it again.
Wondering if anybody knew if that was the final plan. What wells on that reach, Jake?
In the rimrock area, they vary in depth. It's really fractured area up there. I think there's a lot of.
Staggered, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of movement. You can see it in the rock formations when you drive around up there. We will move on to a public meeting to consider the approval of short plat SPL 2021-09, parcel number 0611-3200-0004/00 within the Trout Lake vicinity. Applicants are Carl and Anise Alloway.
Okay, SBL 2021-09 is a proposal to create 2 lots in the Trout Lake vicinity. The admin review of this short plat has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the Road Health Planning and Treasurer's Office. All conditions attached to preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds that it's in the public's interest to approve the short plat, a motion needs to be made granting final approval of SPL 2021-09, applicants Carl and Anise Alloway.
Do you have any issue?
I have no comment.
All right,
With it.
you want to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve short plat number SPL 2021-09 in the Trout Lake vicinity, applicants Carl and Anise Alloway.
I will step down and second the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Next, we will consider a public meeting to consider the approval of short plat SPL 2021-14, parcel number 05-16-2756-0001/00, as well as 5/16/2756, 200 within the Goldendale vicinity. Applicants are Paul and Deborah
Bosnon.
Baj. Yeah.
Bosch.
SPL 2021-14 adjusts the boundaries of those 3 parcels. They're upgrading access into lots 1 and 2 of a previous short plat, SPL 2006-071 in the Goldendale vicinity off of Boston Road. The admin review of the short plat has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the Road Health Planning and Treasurer's Office. All conditions attached to preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds that it's in the public interest to approve this short plat, a motion needs to be made granting final approval of SPL 2021-14, applicants Paul and Deborah Bosnon.
Got anything? Good motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve short plat SPL 2021-14 the Goldendale vicinity, Paul and Deborah Foshnut.
I will step down and second the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Denise.
Get more exercise when Dave's not here. To get up and walk that direction all the time.
Thank you, Denise. Next up, we have Senior Services Director Sharon Carter for her department update.
That's the department update. Going down today, so we shall see.
Sharon, would you be able to email this to me? in the future?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
And I still have the statistics on transportation that I will send you. I was on vacation and didn't totally understand it. So I just first wanted to update on personnel. So we had been having difficulty with getting any applicants, but fortunately we did finally get applicants and new staff to replace open positions we had as part-time cooks. So we have a new person that's started training and 3 new drivers that have started between Goldendale and White Salmon. And then we've had a number of new volunteers, fortunately, that have come on this past month to help with our home delivered meals program too, and are interested in helping in other areas once we actually open up our meal sites as well. But right now where we really needed help is with delivering meals.
Is there any time frame on when they think they might have governor's direction on opening meal sites?
Yeah, so we were hoping with it opening up that we would actually be able to maybe as soon as July, but they haven't updated. We're under more stringent requirements because of the senior nutrition program and the vulnerable population. So we just got to update that the Aging and Long-Term Care Services Administration, who for Washington State, that kind of oversees that and gives guidance and direction to us, they're updating that guidance. So we already know we have to develop a plan and have a number of different elements in there, but with changes in the reopening, we have to get more clarification on exactly like numbers of people limited and then what kind of issue of masking and things like that. So we have already, Jackie D. Hart, who's our nutrition coordinator, had checked in with like our Lyle location volunteers. They're raring to go once we can get going. And I spoke with the board president for the senior center because we leased the space there to do and talked about, that we're in the process. So my hope is August or September. So we just on our July newsletter, been giving updates and, fingers crossed that we can have something in place and approved because we have folks that really want to be able to get back together.
Or at least we know the answer that we can give people when they ask.
Yeah, so we are, it is moving forward. And one of the big caveats within the plan will be we have to have a clear emergency kind of plan protocol in place for immediate shutdown. And, and a lot of it is, names, which we already do. People already sign in, for the meal program. We get information, we know that. So a number of the things aren't going to be a big burden, but the other item is that we actually have to have somebody assigned to monitor and enforce practices. And that doesn't mean it can't be a volunteer as well, but we're working through some of that. So we're hopeful that it will be soon. But we do have, seniors coming into the Pioneer Center and, using the library and using some of the little areas there. And we're continuing with the home delivered meals. We still have, we're doing a couple thousand meals a month still on the home delivery side of things. In terms of personnel too, one of the items that I wanted to talk about was a resolution was proposing
So there was a resolution that the board, we had done with some conversation with the board back in like 2009, 2010. So one of the issues was within my department, you know, we have staff positions that aren't like Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So we have in-home caregivers that work in client homes, caregiving, and those are people who need help at, you know, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, or they may have an evening caregiver or weekend, that kind of thing. And in our transportation service and the dial ride service, our drivers may have a 5 a.m. start because we have to have somebody to dialysis in the Dalles, or they're going for surgery in Portland, and they may not actually even be back until 9 p.m. On some days too. So we're not working a traditional 8 to 5 shift. And one of the problems we were noticing a number of years ago is that drivers were having to use supplementing days where they didn't have a full 8-hour day. Well, 7 hours is actually what they're required. They're a 35-hour a week FTE position. And so if they didn't have 7 hours on a particular day, so maybe they had a schedule and a ride canceled, so they only had maybe a 4-hour day. Well, the next day though, they may have had an 11-hour day because they had somebody that ended up not being discharged or was in a procedure longer than expected and was later. The way it had been, as if you weren't getting 35 hours in the week, they were having to supplement sick or vacation to make that 35-hour work week. Well, we had addressed, well, why can't we do it based on, for benefits, it really should be based on a monthly or even a payroll average for the 2-week pay period. Because we may have a driver that works 32 hours one week, but then they work 40 the next. So they've clearly met the 70-hour requirement for the 35-hour week, you know, for the pay period or the month of 140 hours. And so we were having where I was actually having to come as on like a couple of our part-timers because they would have to supplement if they weren't exactly at 24 in a work week, but yet another week they might work 30 hours. It didn't make sense. Okay, why are they having to supplement if they're meeting the monthly? So that had been said, but apparently the only resolution that I can find that specifically references that and trying to look through those was one in 2010 specific to the home care givers. But I know we had discussion, and this was back when Randy Post was here, and it was specific to both drivers and caregivers and those that were in the benefited position. So the auditor's office, you know, it came up because there's been different staff changes, and it's like, oh, these people aren't at the right hours. And I responded that, well, we had some years ago said it was going to be based on that it was fine as long as it was for the month. So they had said, well, we really need a resolution that clarifies that from the board, because they did say they were able to see the one on the home care side of things, but not the drivers. So I wanted to ask the board, you know, if that was something that you were amenable to. It's again, they're going to, they maintain, we're making sure they maintain the appropriate hours in that FTE for that monthly benefit.
So this isn't an hours payroll thing. This is a benefit qualification thing.
Correct. And there was a couple of situations where I was having to come to the board and ask for like permission for people to take like a vacation, a leave without pay, because they'd been supplementing their time, even though if you looked at their average monthly hours, they were always sufficient. So, you know, the auditor's office said they really do need something for those purposes that says that that's acceptable. So if that's okay, I would look at, you know, drafting a resolution and presenting to the board next week.
Before I say it's okay, I would love to have you give a quick rundown of what you just said to Casey in the corner and have her nod her head at me, and then I will give you my answers.
Okay. Yeah, if they want, I mean, it's, I don't, you were probably on the email chain related to the drivers and caregivers and the FT, the 35 hours a week where they might be 38 one week, but 32 another, but as long as they were at this was with Randy, like, I think it was 2009, 2010. There is a specific resolution for the caregivers.
Yes.
That allow for it, but apparently it's not in there for the drivers, which is funny because the drivers was the one that it came up first with, and so I don't know, somewhere in there. So we've been operating that way all this time, but then it came up because there's different staff in the auditor's office and for payroll. And so they told me that we needed to have, and I think that was in that email feed, it's been about a month, last month.
Okay, thank you.
That said they needed a formal resolution to address that.
The auditor's on their way down too.
Okay.
Auditor's on their way down too.
I hate saying yes or no without having every fact at my disposal, so.
Yeah.
Bear with me. So you're saying that the two groups of people, there was a resolution written for one of them, but not the other one, but we've been
The one that
treating
I
them
can
the
find.
same this whole time anyway,
Yeah.
until lately when somebody caught it, and now we either need to not treat them the same or make a resolution that brings them to the same.
Correct.
I don't know that I have a lot of problem with that as long as it's not a problem that I'm not noticing, which is why I wanted.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you think, Dee?
I think as long as it passes the auditors and I would entertain a resolution next week.
Right.
I would get it done.
Like I said, if we can get sign off from HR and the auditor's office, then it just seems fair.
Yeah, and I know it was discussed with auditors and everybody, you know, in HR and everything back. I mean, I was searching, trying to find exactly when and the threads for that. And the one I found was the home care aides, and that was like 2009 or 2010. And I'm like, and I know it was specific to even, it was a driver, you know, or a couple drivers that had come up with it, so.
So what, have we just missed this, looking for this resolution in the last 10 years, and that's why it's just kind of been happening that way?
Well, I mean, when you have staff changes and then there's something where it's different, and again, because I have.
It's just been caught.
And then, because I'm also have unique, I'm not the typical, you know, in terms of usually staff are more on a standard schedule.
Any issues or comments you would like to bring forth about this before we?
I didn't hear the entire
I didn't
conversation.
figure you did, because you were walking, but,
Huh?
because you were walking down the stairs probably, but.
Well, no, I missed the first part because I was on the phone season. But I know the policy only addresses the home care aides, and there is nothing to address the drivers.
And that's, yeah.
So
Yeah,
not that
and
you have a
that's totally
problem with us making a policy that addresses the drivers, you just need one before you can do your job. Is that what you're kind of,
Go ahead, Henry.
It's just difficult to follow policy when you don't have policy, or policy is contrary to policy, and there's
right.
you know, no history, and because generally hourly employees are required to backfill to make a weekly FTE. So, you know, when Nicole was looking at the payroll, she's going based on that this is county policy.
Right.
So she's looking for this, and you know, I wasn't here when the conversation was had, Nicole wasn't here. I don't know if she was, but may or may not have been part of it or whatever, so it's really more about codifying whatever our policy is, so that we have a policy to.
I didn't realize it wasn't in writing, but we don't have anything to follow.
Yeah, and I tried to
That's
find, because
the
I was
issue.
sure that we had done a resolution that addressed
No,
both.
we looked.
And I looked, and the only one, right, is the home care, and I'm like, this, it was actually came up with in relation to drivers, so it was
And
kind
you
of
do
funny.
have some people in your office who are required to backfill when they don't take, that aren't home care. There's our driver, there's one of your exempt part-timers who we've had that backfill issue with. So
She's talking specific to the van.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but so because just your department still has people who do have to backfill, then.
Right, and that's a
when she
different
went to
with
look
an
at it,
executive,
because
that's a position that's a
Correct.
8 to 5,
Right.
versus these ones, these are the two that aren't.
Right,
Yes,
but it was
yeah,
just when we're
exactly.
looking at
Yeah.
policy, because it still applies to your
Yeah,
department for
And
some
that's,
employees.
and so the only
So-
one that's missing, because I was like, I don't know how it wasn't the driver's.
It was
on
all
there.
discussed and somehow it fell through the
Just
cracks.
fell through the cracks.
And
So this wouldn't cause a problem elsewhere in the county by passing this?
That it would cause less of a problem having something.
The way it is
solidified
now.
in Writing.
See, that answers all my questions.
Because I know, and the piece is is ensuring, monthly that they're getting the hours for the benefit requirement for that.
Right, and that was my thing. I mean,
And
off your
so
presentation,
that's what we're
it just
looking at,
sounds
but
right,
usually-
it just sounds
yeah.
fair. I just want to make
Yeah.
sure we're not creating other problems by trying to fix one problem. So they sign off, I sign off. I'm a good for
Okay.
it. Up to Jake over here.
No, said I would entertain it next week.
Perfect.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sorry to drag y'all in there. I
No,
just
it's
wanted to have Input in case I was screwing something up that affected you, so.
Thank you. Okay. So I will pull and probably just maybe take the one that was with home care and address it. And just indicate both positions in one.
Should
and
be easy.
then We'll have an updated.
Modify one instead of making a second.
Yeah. And then just be updated and have both on there, so then one searching and finding.
Should be it.
Okay. And then the other item was I did kind of have to deal with some staff that were pretty upset last week related to the letter and or post, I guess, that Sheriff Songer had put, because we're having to enforce mask wearing on public transit. It's federally mandated for us, just like with airports and that's going to be in place. That order is in effect through like September 13th. I don't know where the 13th comes from, but that's, through September. And it was initially, I even had my supervisor that was like, okay, I think I'm just going to quit. I'm done with this, because it's dealing with people that are upset anyway and and it's like, we're just enforcing what our regulations are with our licenses, with home care. Our caregivers have to wear masks, vaccinated or not, same with drivers, and all the passengers have to wear masks, vaccinated or not. And we had a driver that experienced some pretty negative responses from some passengers, which we actually haven't had a lot of issue with until the news is carrying these. And then, so I had a number of calls and I was reassuring folks, but that didn't seem to really resolve some of that anxiety. So I did call Sheriff Songer directly on Friday and said, look, I have staff worried that they're going to get the police called on and they're going to get arrested because they're telling people they need to wear masks in order to ride transit, because that's what our directive is. And so he responded that was not going to happen, that he was not going to do that. He was not going to direct his deputies to do that either, that he understood that there are directives that have to be followed and staff are having to follow that. He said that he felt like his letter or whatever was misinterpreted. And I said, well, it was pretty clearly calling out that, and I said, so I want to make sure that, if I'm going to be arrested or my staff are going to be arrested, and especially, and I gave him specific scenarios with like the drivers and that we have to have masks. And he said he understands, just like airlines, and indicated that he felt he was addressing it more along the lines of forced vaccination. I said, well, we don't have anything to do with vaccinations other than helping people get to appointments if they want that, or helping them make ones if they want it. But we do have very specific regulation and mandates related to our licenses for home care agency and also on the transit side. And so he did reassure me that they would not, even if somebody called and said, oh, they're telling me I have to wear a mask, that it wouldn't result in an arrest. So I was
encouraging to hear that.
So I was able to relay that to my staff to reassure them that that's what was communicated. And he thanked me for calling him directly, right? Because I'm like, I keep, but I did tell him that, kind of it causes more of an issue outside of just people worried about being arrested. It kind of inflames people. So people that we've been where we'll tell people, okay, this is the requirement, and they've gone on, well, there was a lot more verbal aggressiveness and negativity towards our drivers than they've experienced, even throughout this whole pandemic when we're, and it's going to be, I think, challenging because with the state opening up, but transit still has to wear masks. And so we have been, explaining to people and all that. Yes. And so, and there's a lot of other personal protective equipment that has to be in place. And so I just had told him that, these kind of things do just really create really basically hostile environments for people working. We already are dealing a lot of times with people that have challenging medical and mental health issues on some of the sites with the medical transportation, services that we're doing. And so
I'm happy your volunteers didn't quit. That was something I was worried about with that statement. That people would just say, I'm not dealing with this and walk away. So I'm glad that part was able to get worked out.
Yeah. So just wanted to, and thank the board for you doing a responsive letter on that too, but I do really wish that it wouldn't create, because it created a lot more work for me on top of everything is dealing with people that when there's already enough going on, and it would just really be nice not to have to put out additional fires that could have been avoided. So anyway, so and just along those lines again, that we will be, in my department, just like, I'm sure in health and a number of other areas that we will continually have to, there will be masks on. So our staff that are testing to vaccination are able to have them off in the office and that too, but as soon as they're on transit, and doing transportation, they have to mask.
Just for clarification, you may or may not be able to answer this. Are you only following the current guidelines, or are you imposing your own guidelines over the top of what's being imposed on you?
No, we're only doing we're regulated.
What I expected, and thank you for that. And I just wanted clarification for anybody that might be watching.
We have enough regulations that we have no need to have additional ones. We have a number of them that we wish would be backtracked a little bit.
Yeah.
But so, and then we already on nutrition program touched on that. Our sites are still closed, but we are working towards opening the meal sites up again, based on guidance and regulation with plans that we'll have in place for that. And we are, transportation busy with our dial-a-ride service. We're actually having challenges where we're booked out a couple weeks in advance. So people that are wanting like more immediate same day or even within a couple of days, it's challenging. Because Medicaid no longer has another provider. We're the only contracted non-emergency medical transportation provider for Medicaid clients in Klickitat County now too. So, so you could potentially hear, sometimes board members have heard from the public about, oh, I can't get a ride. We do try to explain to people and let them know they may need to reschedule, or if we have a cancellation, we can call them, but we only have a certain number of vehicles and drivers and capacity. And so we're doing what we can there. And we are still doing, prescription pickup, delivery, food pickup and delivery, food bank boxes and that too. We did also, we did end service on our fixed route early yesterday in both White Salmon's route and Goldendale's route, fixed route because of the heat. And today we did full route still on the White Salmon Hood River route because it's substantially cooler, if you could call it that, there today. But because of the 115 temp here, we also ended our Goldendale to the Dalles route early today too. But we are hoping that it'll be back to more normal service. And we post that on the Gorge TransLink site, do the radio ads to emails and that, so it gets posted to let people know that way. But on the fixed route, I did want to, in here, we have, so behind my page here, there's the email that I forwarded from Patty Fink, who's the executive director of Columbia Area Transit out of Hood River. So she had indicated that CAT was interested in possibly providing summer fixed route service between Benja and White Salmon and Hood River because they're already doing weekend service with their Hood River Trolley and their Columbia Gorge Express and kind of for tourism and that, and had requests. I'd let her know we did not have resources to provide that service because weekend service has been requested for a number of years, but we don't have the resources for that. So she apparently spoke, with her board, and they're interested and going to plan to do a service for this summer at least, but wanted to find out if you had any concerns regarding them providing the service. And I said, well, in the past in discussions, there hasn't been any concern about anybody that's willing to provide service in Klickitat County that's not going to cost.
The funding, it's not the service.
Yeah. So this is kind of, they have money from, CARES Act funding and that too. They have quite a bit of resources they have available to be able to provide it for this summer. And, potentially they would look at the Gorge Pass that they're selling and any, potentially revenue from that to look at for the future. But, definitely we benefit from them, providing, weekend service in terms of citizens of Klickitat County being able to access that. So that service would be included in that Gorge Pass that goes on sale tomorrow. And that Gorge Pass is basically a pass that's, you pay $30 and you can ride any of the transit the fixed route transit services in the 4 counties for that $30. So people can ride, they'll be able to use that pass to ride this particular service. And so this was the attachment that was sent. This is their proposed schedule of that route that would run in the summer. And so it would basically kind of mirror what, so they were looking at potentially any comments or feedback on that, and if the board has any concerns about them operating service.
Clarification, this doesn't have any funding requirements for our county.
Nope.
This doesn't have any funding hits that later we wouldn't get our share of Gorge Pass resources or any of that. So yeah, Mr. Jake, do you have any issues with that?
Nope, good.
We're good.
Okay, great. And then also, so I have
Question while you're looking through your stuff there. Catalytic converters. In Public Works, I keep meaning to ask Gordy for 2 weeks now if they put up cameras. Do you know? Or
What was that?
If they put up cameras to keep people from stealing our catalytic converters, do you know?
I don't know if there's any ones installed. There hasn't been a camera there, and it was literally the buses that are right next to our door. and it was over the weekend. The police report that was made, I mean, you can see the camera from the bank, and so the police are gonna see if they can get any visual on there, but usually people are pretty
In your time here, have you ever seen this problem before?
not catalytic converters. We had fuel stolen before, and then the issue of like going with locking gas caps is then sometimes there's more damage because they'll cut the fuel line and drain it. So we've had other kind of little things, nothing like major, but the catalytic converters, that's a national issue.
An expensive one.
Yeah, so it's gonna be about 1,500, which was actually less than I kind of anticipated. I was thinking at
For both
least
vehicles?
2,000. No, that's for one.
That would be less now too. I expected 2,000 a piece.
I was thinking about 2,000 a piece, so I thought 1,500 for one is that good. So one of the problems right now though is getting them. So they've finally been able to get one, and then they're still trying to get the second one because everybody's like out of them. So the other thing that we will be doing is putting on, there's a thing called like a cat strap, and it's like it's designed where it's going to make it difficult for somebody to try and cut them off again. Using either that or the mechanic shop said they actually, because it happened to the church buses too, apparently in Goldendale. And so what they've done is they welded on like a steel plate because you can't just get a Sawzall and buzz through there. So apparently Skamania County had it happen with their transit bus twice. So they did it once and then they replaced it, and they did it the second time. So then they got that cat strap on it and it hasn't been stolen again.
I think it's kind of like locking your car doors. It won't prevent a thief, but it'll make the thief get in the car next to you that doesn't have his car door locked.
So right now we're looking at on the west end too of the buses that we think are at risk, getting those on, talking to the mechanic there about installing those. So that'll be an expense to get those, but in the long run, much cheaper than. So the insurance deductible is $1,000, and so that'll at least, cover a little bit of it. Because if it's going to cost us about $3,000, so if we can get them, so
Right.
because that puts it out of service too. Yeah, so it's constant issues with.
Okay.
And then I included a copy of, these are the new routes that start up July 1st. So there's one of the routes is the White Salmon and Bingen to Hood River route, and then the other one is the Goldendale to the Dalles route. And we actually, for Goldendale, we modified where we're doing like an in-town city route and the Goldendale to the Dalles route. So what we have is there's 3 times a day that we're doing the whole circuit from Goldendale to the Dalles and back. And then in between those times, there's in-town circulation because we have a lot of requests for people just going around the city and being able to use that service. So that frees us up with some of our kind of on-demand needs where we have people that are needing to go over to KVH, to the clinic for a same-day appointment, and we don't have any availability we can just direct them, they can hop on the fixed route bus. And so again, it's just $1 for them to ride on that each time they board, or if they purchase the Gorge Pass, they would be able to ride unlimited through the end of the year on all of those services for $30. The other thing that is part of the Gorge Pass is that they have a feature within, Token Transit, which is the app where those are purchased from, where people can actually make a donation or purchase some passes, and they can direct them even to a particular area. And then they have what's called like an equity fund, that CAT has established, where they provide free passes. When people purchase those, donate those, they give those to the Next Door program in Hood River, and then they distribute to folks in need. So on our site, we had indicated that WAGAP, Washington Gorge Action Programs, would be a good agency to have those passes to go to, because they help people in a lot of different settings. And so when they do get passes donated, WAGAP will have those available to be able to give to clients. So we'll, in terms of folks that need them. And they do plan to have kind of a marketing, kind of a launch of the pass that there'll be press releases on, where they're encouraging people they can win a free pass by taking pictures at like ice cream shops at the different towns. And so like they've got, and so people that do kind of posting pictures, so wanting to promote kind of folks being out and about in the area and using public transit, and they can win a pass. So I think that is everything on my update. Any questions or?
No question.
As usual, I ask all mine doing the presentation, because I'll never remember them at the end, so.
Okay.
One day you'll learn to write stuff.
I can write it down, I just can't read my notes.
Here, I'll get it. Yeah. Do you want this? Oh, you have this.
No.
Okay. Okay.
No, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. And I hope you lose no more.
I believe Jeff King may be on Zoom if you wanted to have your board pending prior to the consent and the bills.
Yeah, we can do that. If Jeff, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right. For board pending, we were going to have a conversation about fireworks. We've been getting lots of emails. I just got your email about the red flag warning. And I guess since I was for my agenda item, I was contacted by the mayor of White Salmon saying that her and Chief Hunsaker are looking at implementing a ban on fireworks this 4th of July, and was asking if the county would follow suit. And I told her I would look into it. From what I have seen is that we have a fireworks ordinance, but nowhere in that ordinance does it allow us to do an emergency order for an emergency ban. In order to do said ban, it would take a year. You have to give a full year's notification, and I understand. So like people are out there buying fireworks right now, and then you tell them you can't use them. At least it's kind of what I figured the legislative intent would be behind that, why it has to take a year later. So I don't see any way that we can ban fireworks this fire season, even with a red flag warning for the next few days that hopefully won't lead through the 4th. But it would probably be a good idea to put some letter together to go out to the public to say that we encourage people to let off fireworks at the Bingen Marina, and that we encourage people to act responsibly. And remember, if you start a fire, you are liable.
Yes, sir. I've already been working on a draft to that effect this morning of a public media release in which I state that Klickitat County Department of Emergency Management urges the public to refrain from using fireworks during this unprecedented historic heat wave and extreme wildfire danger, so on and so forth, and try to articulate, our position as to why, even if they are legal, that they should not be doing it due to safety factors.
Is it worthwhile adding in there the potential liability? That usually is the thing that scares most people from making dumb decisions.
Right. Yes, that's something that we've done in the past, and I can add into this, there are legal considerations for us as well, not to make statements that aren't true. So the statement will be that they can be charged for fires, not only fire, the effects of the fire, whatever property damage is created, but also for the suppression costs of those fire activities.
And that's
Yeah,
in our
just that they
fireworks.
can be held liable for expenses incurred by a fire that they started.
Correct. Yep. All expenses. Yes. And when a fire gets big and it goes to state fire mobilization, that becomes a very, very big bill.
So don't light a fire and fireworks in the middle of Eagle Creek. Everybody remembers when that happened.
Yeah. And to clarify, I've, Commissioner Anderson, you mentioned the city White Salmon. I was made aware of that yesterday morning as well. I've had discussions with the fire chief and the police chief there, and emails with the mayor before they made that decision. In that, even if we had the legal ability in the rest of the county to have a ban on fireworks immediately, the city, and given its geographic nature and their jurisdiction and the size, they're much better positioned to be able to enforce something like that. Although I know that we will still get many more phone calls from people reporting their neighbors or whoever they see into 911, as well as stressing the law enforcement capacity to respond to those. And I spoke to the sheriff yesterday as well, and we are in agreement that people are still going to do it, and we could not regulate that and enforce it in any meaningful way across the entire county. It would just generate a whole lot more phone calls and calls for service for the deputies than we could actually respond to. And if a deputy or any law enforcement officer doesn't see it directly, they have no enforcement capabilities anyway. So we need to encourage people to refrain from that activity out of an abundance of caution and, common sense.
So be free, but be smart being free.
Correct. Yes.
Well, thank you for taking the lead and already drafting a letter, and we look forward to seeing it.
You're welcome. I'm not the only one thinking about these things. One thing I haven't gotten is any feedback or input from the fire chiefs. I had a meeting with them last week in which, this issue wasn't brought forward, but even without that, which we usually, I say myself and the board usually defers to the fire authorities for these types of things. But even without an outcry from the fire chiefs for me to recommend to you to do something, I think it is the most prudent thing to just put out that message and count on our citizens and the visiting public to do the responsible thing.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else I can?
No, we just wanted to make sure that was, on the record that yes, we are looking into it and learning and trying to make the right decisions. And I totally understand you wanting to keep the 911 open for actual fires, because we know there will be fires, and we want our sheriffs and our first responders going to the problem, not just where they see something. So totally understand.
And we have to stay on solid legal ground. So add that to the mix, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. Both of those statements. I couldn't agree more. And I believe, given the conditions and my experience, that if we get away without at least one major wildfire, that I don't anticipate that. We should probably have a couple over the next week or so. I will be happy. Yeah, I'm not a superstitious person. I deal in reality. If we can do our jobs and nature is not against us, and not lose any homes in the wildfires that are to come. It's not if, it's when. I will be a very happy person.
Yeah, you take that as a win.
Yep.
And thank God we have the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport down there with 2 fire bosses, a sky crane, another helicopter. And when I was over in Hood River yesterday, they had 2 fire bosses there as well. So,
And hundreds of
correct.
volunteers in the county.
and we have
Yes.
hundreds of volunteers on top of it.
That's where our strength lies, is in all those volunteers and the preparations of the firefighters.
Great. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have anything else since we're in board pending?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay, let's move on to the consent. You said you wanted to talk about the consent.
I will make a motion that we approve consent agenda items 1, 2, 3, and 5 and take 4 separately.
I hear a motion to approve agenda items 1, 2, 3, and 5. And I will step down and second the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, consent agenda number 4.
Do you want me to make a motion before discussion, or do you want to discuss first?
We discussion.
Okay. I have trouble with this one. Not that the employee doesn't deserve it, but that I think it sets a precedent. They were told to use the vacation by July. I made sure to reach out to HR to remind them all 2 months ago that we would not extend. I would not extend anyway. I can only speak for myself. Of the 16 or 17 that needed to use it, only 1 has not. So I guess I would say I feel bad for this 16 that we forced to use it if we allow 1 to not. And 1 of those 17 donated 100 hours. If we extend it for this person, that person just lost their 100. It's not fair, in my eyes, unless you want to come up with a budget of another 100 hours to give back to that person. So on a fairness level to all employees, I cannot vote yes on agenda item number 4.
Are there any extenuating circumstances here? I don't know of the 16. I didn't get into the details of.
No,
who.
not really. It's not in who or where or any of that. It just comes down to a, what precedent are we setting? The 14 or 15, are they going to be angry at us because we made them use theirs and then all of a sudden we don't make somebody else? Do they think there's favoritism involved because of who the person we're not making use it? How is the department head that donated 100 hours because he couldn't use them? How's he going to feel when we let another department head carry him off again? I just don't think it sets good morale for the county. It doesn't set good morale for the employees. I think it sets a bad precedent. And no matter, originally I was thinking doing some kind of buyout or something. But again, then you got to go back to the person that gave 100 hours away, to someone dealing with COVID or whatever they were doing. Where do they get paid for theirs that they gave away because we told them they had to use it or lose it? And now we're changing that. So I cannot, in good faith for the rest of the employees and the people that did give up their hours, make an exception for 1 person over the 16. So I don't know if you want to, you're fully welcome to table this until Dave comes back if you think, but I will be the same a week from now.
Well, I think we're going to have to table it. Otherwise, it'll just sit there and die. And when do they expire? July 1st?
30th, I thought.
July 30th. So at least we can table it.
June 30th, I believe.
Thank you.
Oh, June 30th.
Yeah.
Well, that makes life more difficult.
I think you did mention it during the
What?
meeting.
He asked during one of his department dates or one of his meetings, I think that's why he submitted it. He was given approval. So 3 or 4 weeks ago, he requested.
I think he has had extreme circumstances, having lost 2 employees, new one coming on board, as well as another one that's on military leave. So he's been doing double duty, not able to really take that time off. If you would like, I could give him a call if you'd like him to come in.
I have all the information I need, unless it would change your mind. I'm looking at the amount of hours that have been donated, the amount of leave remaining, the amount of hours that will be accumulated by the end of the year. The amount of hours he would have to take off by the end of the year if we granted another extension, in the amount of hours he would still have to take off if we don't allow an extension, to not have to do a holdover again in December. All that information has been provided to me already. My decision is unfortunately what it is.
I guess, speaking about morale, you could also look at it as you have somebody who's working multiple jobs because people are out on military leave. And you can also look at it as a person who also spent 11 hours this weekend in the office putting out, responding to public records requests. And so you have to think of the morale of, and we've always usually extended leave. Have we not?
If the board in the future wants to create some kind of a payout option so that all of the 16 or 17 can benefit in being treated fair and equally, I would be all for it. Unfortunately, we don't have one. So the people that gave away their vacation get nothing.
Have you looked at the history to see how much vacation this individual's given away in the past?
All I have is for the last year and a half. But again, it isn't a matter of, I'm not saying this individual isn't a great employee or doesn't deserve it or doesn't deserve a buyout or something. I'm just saying it sets a precedent to not follow direction of the board. And it also sets a precedent to the other members that some people are going to get away with it when others aren't.
We can't do buyouts on.
I don't believe there's ever been. Would you like me to grab Casey?
Yeah, I don't think it's legal.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like I said, I don't know if it is or isn't. That was originally when this was brought up to me, that was originally my first thought. Because there's no reason to just carry forward for life, and that's kind of what we're dealing with. But when I realized other people were then forced to take vacations and just sit on their couch because they had nowhere to go, and or people giving away their vacation because they're a workaholic and can't be away because they've got too much work to do. Also, it is just, to me, is not fair to one department head that works 20 feet away from the other department head.
Casey?
Yes.
Are local governments allowed to do buyouts of vacation time?
Unused vacation time that's going to expire if not used.
If it's within that year, they get, so if someone were to carry over a lot of time and they retired before the end of the next year, then whatever is in their bank, they get paid out on. Whatever.
But they have to retire.
Well, that's the only way you get paid out on vacation time. Or, well, no, they don't have to retire. They can resign. They get paid out on vacation.
They have to leave the county. We can't.
Sick leave that you retire, you get paid out on.
So I guess I would say
It's within our policy.
the extensions of unused vacation time, we can't just pay somebody out on that unused vacation time versus right now, I'm presented with the option of either use it or lose it or extend it. there's not a buyout option in there, whereas there could be a buyout option in the future, we just don't have them.
There has never been one before.
But is it legal, is allowed,
I think we'd have to look into that, number one.
you know?
I don't see how it would be illegal.
What's that?
To get paid out on vacation. That's, you're setting a precedent beyond.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
And then
Just
you,
saying,
and that's my worry with that idea, because then you're gonna have a lot of people, I know one of them firsthand, that would never go on vacation, they would just take payoff. And I think, like I mentioned earlier in executive, vacations are important for the health and well-being of so I don't necessarily want to set a precedent. If I did do a payout and we did authorize a payout as a board, I would not be a yes vote on a 100% payout. I would be a yes vote on a 25% payout. So you give up $100, I'll pay you 25. That still encourages them to go on vacation. But I don't know that any part of that helps us in this.
But doesn't that, I mean,
situation.
that would mess up people's budgets because,
it could, but can I ask something?
huh?
I missed the reason. What would be the reason to pay somebody out?
So we have to either use your vacation or you apply
Right.
for extension.
Or you lose it.
Or you lose
it.
it.
Correct.
The
Or
policy
you
is
lose it.
use it or
That's-
lose it, or
that's where I'm
request
at.
an extension.
Since we had 16, 17 employees that carried it over,
Mhm.
of those, only one of them hasn't used it or donated it.
Right,
We also have another department head that donated 100 hours.
right. I'm aware of that.
I can't, in good faith, extend for one person when somebody else gave away 100 hours
Mhm.
because it's not fair to them.
Okay,
So that's where I was originally, when this was brought up, I was thinking of a buyout or a pay down. But even then, that wouldn't work in this scenario because it's not fair to the people that gave away their vacation, because they wouldn't get the buy down. So in the future, I was saying we could think about a buy down, but
so,
not under this case.
okay. But how did the buyout come out? Because I missed that part of the conversation, I guess. So is the person not able to use it?
Not able, not willing, too much of a workaholic.
It's a consent agenda item
I'm sorry.
where that person could not use that by June 30th.
Okay.
And so he had requested to carry it over, I think probably for a certain amount of time.
To the end of December.
End of December.
Okay, thank you.
So my first reaction, because we did warn everybody, and I thought I made it pretty clear that I'm a fan of vacations, take it or lose it. And then I made sure HR sent out a warning to those people that I'm not going to budge. And so now if I budge, I'm also setting a precedent that, oh, no, he's just a pushover. Come in next week and I'll sign another one for you. And so I'm sorry, sir. I'm going to butt the system. I have to be where I am.
Well, is it because this individual is working more than one job? That the deal?
Doesn't have an office manager. One of the employees is on military leave.
I kind of have that in my office.
I have staffing issues throughout the county.
Well, and
I
also in that same regard, if you take this clock back 6 months ago, he was fully staffed last year and still carried over. So you can't use that excuse.
But if
It's more of a workaholic issue.
If it's a staffing issue, I've had that going on since March of 20.
And see, I
I have an employee in the same position.
hate to discipline quality employees. And I personally think we do the same thing with sick time. When an employee never goes on sick time and then they leave or whatever, and they lose all their sick time, I think it's wrong. I think we have a good employee that we should thank for not calling in sick every week. And instead they get punished because they don't get their sick time. I can, if the board had a will to do a buyout for future stuff at a lower rate, so there's still incentive to go on vacation, I would be willing, but I don't think that fixes this problem. So that's why I was saying I cannot vote in favor of this because of setting the precedent. and what I would think would be unfair to the other 16 employees. If you wanted to carry this forward till next week to possibly get a second vote, I would still be a no, but as the vice chair, that's your decision. I think, unless, I mean, can you carry it forward because it's June 30th deadline? You know, could we make a week?
So my office could go ahead and take it and clear it. And then if the decision is made to reinstate it for X amount of period, it can be done.
So clarify, we would be extending it for the 6 months and then have to drop it down to.
No.
Okay, sorry.
So it'd be just like use it or lose it, June 30, because it's this pay period, it's a short pay period.
Right.
Then if the decision is made to allow some of the time or all of the time requested, we could go back and adjust.
Okay.
I have
So
a
we can-
clarification, I'm sorry, from the deputy auditor. She says they don't process payroll until Wednesday. So you can decide next week in time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's, I mean, that's what I'm saying though, is if you still haven't made a decision by next week. it can
I
always
just
be
didn't know
take care of the next pay
if we're
period.
forced to make a decision by June 30th. Probably according to policy, but according to payroll, we can wait.
Well, it's gonna get eliminated if a decision is not made. Then if there's another decision made, it can be
It's
adjusted.
just one of those rare occasions where we have to make a decision in 3 hours and we're only 2 of us.
Short payroll turnaround. Uh-huh.
Normally there would be 3 of us, so there wouldn't have this problem. That need to postpone.
You know, I think there's also the thing is that we've also had an internal policy for how long that people can come in and request, and that the commissioners have usually honored that request or
Depending on the circumstances. Yes.
almost always honored the request.
Yes.
How many times have they not?
I don't really remember any time they didn't, did any of you?
No, I know there have been times that people just knew that they were required to use it by a certain amount or a certain time, and if they didn't, they lost it. They did not continue to request it to be carried over and over and over again.
Like that, I think it's a precedent. And even though I'm not necessarily privy to what the boards before me chose, I told people 2 months ago that I would be a no. I have to stick to my principles. I have to stick to what I see as fairness to all employees and non-special treatment. So at this point, I don't see how my mind could be swayed.
Well, sounds like we should table this till next week.
Sounds like a plan.
I like it. Thank you for coming down.
Yeah, I
and
just,
coming over.
yeah, I just heard part of the conversation. I thought, maybe I should go back down. This is false payroll again. So,
All right. So maybe next week when we start to discuss this, can we have it separately other than an agenda item, or should we just do it as an agenda item like we did today and pull it out separately for
Put it
discussion?
under unfinished business.
That'll
That'll
work.
be fine.
And then maybe have full staff here to answer questions because Dave isn't privy to what just took place. So we might pull you both down here for guidance.
not a problem.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both again. I don't think I'll call you back again today, so.
Here, he said don't think. He doesn't think. He doesn't think.
I don't think, I don't see anything else either.
You know what happens with open doors?
I know, right? You want the bills or pay estimates, sir?
Let's do the pay estimates.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve pay estimate number 2 to Lee Contractors LLC in the amount of $115,765.61, excluding $5,788.28 in retainage, including $8,682.42 in sales tax, $118,659.75 is due to the contractor for the Klickitat County Courthouse entrance project, C06821.
I will step down and second the motion. Any discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Bills?
Go to the next pay estimate.
Oh.
Go to the other page.
Page 2. Oh, there's a whole bunch of them in there. Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve pay estimate number 1 final to All Seasons Heating and Air Conditioning in the amount of $7,825.46, which includes retainage of $545.96 in sales tax for the Klickitat County Jail Control Equipment HVAC project, number C07321.
I will step down and second the motion. Any discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve pay estimate number 1 final to All Season Heating and Air Conditioning in the amount of $9,024.92, which includes $590.42 in sales tax for the Klickitat County Radio Site HVAC project C01221.
I will step down and second that motion as well. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right.
Bills?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we pay accounts payable warrants in the amount of $371,399.82 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $1,065,801.90 for the date ending June 28th, 2021.
I will step down and second that motion as well. Any discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right.
Make sure before I fall down. So are we gonna have a little bit of scheduled time for the solar thing? You said you were gonna throw it on there for next week too? So we can discuss that one as a board.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. We are going to do elected official report with prosecuting attorney David Cannell. Do you have anything for open session?
Not really. On the fireworks stuff, we don't have any provision, as you indicated earlier. Exercise emergency jurisdiction. This was an issue that was talked about after the Eagle Creek fire. I had urged the board to think about incorporating some refinement on the allowable use of fireworks and so forth. And there was no action taken at that time. Because of the process, it wouldn't affect this 4th of July nor next Independence Day, but it could the year after. So I would again urge the board to think about taking a look at our fireworks regulation. Not advocating a position one way or another, but there's not a lot of flexibility. There's some curtailment on the hours that we allow, but it's something that Clark County, they have emergency provision they utilized this morning to prohibit the fireworks, the discharge and use. They did that this morning. The white salmon has somewhat more ambiguous provision that they're relying upon, but there's something that they're hanging their hat on. We just don't have any equivalent. So yeah, that's what I know right now.
Okay. Do you have anything for executive session?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you just really came over just to
say hi.
Oh, we missed you.
Yeah, sure. All right. Any questions for me?
No, I'm good.
No?
Okay, all right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Do you have anything else for the good of the order?
I think so. I think everything was addressed.
I have nothing else. If we have nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I will second the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone who stayed with us, all 20 of you. Enjoy your day and stay cool.